The Meet Me for Coffee podcast is on site this week at the Journal of Commerce Inland Distribution Conference 2025 here in one of my favorite cities, Chicago. I'm excited to have a lot of speakers on the show this week, and we're going to be bringing some great content and hearing a lot of really great insights about what's going on in our industry and the broader supply chain. Hello everyone, thank you so much for listening in. This is the last episode that I'm going to be able to record on site here at the Journal of Commerce Inland Distribution Conference. I have to head out this afternoon. The conference is wrapping up, so I have Ryan here with me. Ryan, thanks so much for being willing to be my last guest today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
Well, before we get started, let's cover some of the basics. Tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. I'm Ryan Soskin, co-founder and CEO of Goodship. My background is 15 years in truckload freight and technology. So started at Coyote Logistics when it was a small brokerage up in Lake Forest. Spent about 6 years there through the UPS acquisition. From there, moved out to Seattle as an early employee at Convoy, first person from freight background actually. And yeah, spent about 5 years there, wore a lot of hats. Early days stood up the supply side or the carrier side of the marketplace. Later, spent 3 years building out the contract pricing team, and a lot of the learnings and pain points of building out the contract pricing team and responding to RFPs really kind of became the inspiration for the ideas that led to Goodship. And so, yeah, I've been building Goodship for the last 3.5, coming up on 4 years now.
Awesome. A lot of good things have come out of Coyote. We're very grateful for the people that have come out of there and started so many businesses in this space. Can you also, before we get started, tell me a little bit more about Goodship? I bet a lot of people have heard about you guys recently, so congratulations on your recent funding round.
Thank you.
That sounds like it was a great success. So I would like to know, selfishly, a little bit, what are you guys, who are you, what do you do, and then what are the plans that this, new round of funding is unlocking?
Yeah, absolutely. So Goodship, we call ourselves the all-in-one platform for freight orchestration and procurement. I think the procurement part of that is fairly well understood as a category in our industry. We're going up against the big incumbents that are more generic procurement tools. The reason that really big enterprise shippers are adopting Goodship is because we are purpose-built for transportation use cases, and so that's a lot more to that. But the first part of the kind of tagline, all-in-one platform for freight orchestration, what that means to us is basically we're unifying data from across a shipper's transportation stack. So think load and tender data from their TMS, real-time location information from the big providers for real-time visibility, the results of their RFP and mini bids. We have pre-built integrations to the third-party market rate benchmarks, DAT, Truckstop, FreightWave Sonar. And so we're unifying all this data, giving them a unified view, comprehensive view of their transportation network. And then our recommendation engine is pinpointing the hotspots in their network where they're overpaying to market or to internal forecasts and budgets, where they're getting poor on-time service to pick up, delivery, or blended, and then where they have high spot exposure or a lot of volume not moving via the contracts. And then we allow them to take the corresponding corrective action from the same screen. So really more about leveraging procurement not as a once-a-year event, set it and forget it, but giving shippers agility and resilience to use the orchestration side of the platform to really monitor on a continuous basis where things are working, more importantly, where things are not working, and then taking quick corrective action rather than kind of being reactive and waiting for service to spiral, cost to spiral. We proactively show them where the opportunities are. They can then nip it in the bud and keep their network optimized across spend, service, contract compliance, and other and more in real time.
I love that you talked about, I guess you could say data fragmentation, where shippers have tried over the last 5 to 10 years to go get more technology into their systems, but we still have this issue of disparate systems that aren't, we're collecting data and then they sit in their silos, or it would require someone to then export it, and now we're going to try to export it, and what are we going to do? Are we going to throw a person or maybe try to throw agentic AI at a problem to try to understand it? So it sounds like you guys are that solution where we have all the data, it's out there, it's in different places, let's bring it all together, let's add some more insights that we offer to, and let's make that into something that's actionable. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, exactly right. So we're aggregating the data, bringing it all together in one place, and then really becoming the system of action. We're certainly not replacing the systems that they have, but kind of bringing it all together and giving that comprehensive view, really a kind of a control tower, so they see where things are working, where things are not working, and again, keeping it optimized in real time, rather than having to piece things together in spreadsheets and kind of cross-referencing and trying to make sense of it. Goodship is purpose-built to do that for you, so you don't have to do the manual lift. and it's really simple to kind of identify the opportunities and then capture them.
Okay, well, you and your teams are talking to shippers every day. Your shippers are your customers, and you're having new conversations, I'm sure, all the time. And so I have to tap into kind of your knowledge bank here. I want to know what you guys have been hearing from the shippers. So if we were to kind of say, let's represent the voice of the shippers right now, what are some things that you're hearing on their end when it comes to whether that's technology, procurement, or this like freight orchestration? What's top of mind?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it depends on what stakeholders we're talking to within a shipper, because we do both procurement and orchestration and kind of bring it all together. Okay. Sometimes the tip of the spear are senior transportation procurement leaders that are really initially interested in Goodship for the purpose-built procurement tool to have to replace the generic tool that they're using. And sometimes it's a director or VP of transportation operations who's more excited or more gravitating towards the orchestration side, and they want to make sure they're maintaining their network, keeping it optimized, holding carriers accountable to service and compliance. And so depending on who we're talking to, we hear different things. I would say on the procurement side, the reason we're having a lot of traction there is really because I think shippers are tired of having to get into a room and having a week or several weeks of bringing all the spreadsheets together and kind of trying to bring tribal knowledge into the conversation and figure it out. They're already paying for a tool, probably one of the big incumbents are a generic procurement tool that you can procure anything with. It's not really meant for this use case, and so it requires a lot of manual effort. Sometimes it requires a super user to kind of configure scenarios. You got to get everyone on the team together to kind of get tribal knowledge about which carriers are good at what lanes and what other nuance there is to consider. And so I think Goodship has gotten a lot of traction on the procurement side because we really solve all of that, and we're also an extension of their team to the extent that they, it's very intuitive, but to the extent that they need help building scenarios, we're there, very hands-on customer success team to help them. So I think, again, on the procurement side, they're already paying for a tool, but they're finding that it's not really the seamless experience that they're hoping it would be, and I think Goodship is kind of serving that purpose. On the orchestration side, I think folks really are leaning into the idea of agility and resilience. I think shippers recognize they've had a really easy market. Leverage has been in their favor for, I guess, probably over 3 years at this point. And I think everyone knows at some point the market will shift. There will be more disruption and volatility. Who knows on the timeline? But they want to get ahead of that, and they want to have the tools ready for when that does happen. And so on the orchestration side of the platform, they're adopting it and getting a lot of value today, even in the soft market, where opportunities exist and are hidden in kind of the aggregate of some of the shipper data of these big shippers. But knowing that there will be more volatility ahead, getting those systems and tools in place so that they're ready to manage through the next period of volatility.
Yeah. What do you think shippers are most concerned about right now when they're planning for the next 6 to 12 months?
Most concerned about? That's a good question. I think they're mostly concerned that the market is going to change. No one really knows the timeline. I think you listen to different experts and you hear as many different opinions. And so I think it's really about, again, having the tools in place so that inevitably when it does shift, the markets shift. We've got contracts in our industry are static rates, fixed rates, and then of course it's a volatile industry, at least normally it is when it's not a super soft market. They want to make sure that they're in a position to be agile, make adjustments, make shifts, make continuous optimization so that when the market does change, that they're not left holding the bag and trying to pick up the pieces. They can be kind of making little adjustments and edits along the way to keep it optimized and have a much more kind of seamless transportation network.
On the procurement side of your guys' solution, would you say you guys kind of, obviously we think of procurement, we might think of an RFP event, which is a procurement event, but after that implements and goes live, are they able to continue to use your tool to analyze, okay, how are things going? Do we need, maybe we feel like we need a backup plan on a couple lanes, or we need to start blending someone in? Is it are you guys fully involved through their entire year, not just during an event?
Yeah, great question. Teeing me up to talk more about how orchestration kind of ties in with procurement. I think shippers are both using Goodship for mini bids and for network RFPs. And so when they adopt us, depending on what the timing of their network bid is, they may have their incumbent lanes all set, or they may be getting ready for a big network bid. But once that bid is done, Goodship is really an evergreen tool where they're making, again, those continuous optimizations. And so sometimes it's running a mini bid, but sometimes it's a smaller kind of adjustment or action that they take based on the recommendations engine, the insights in our orchestration side of the platform that says, hey, this lane carrier combination, you're paying, X amount over DAT contract, or you're over your internal forecasts and budgets by this amount. They're identifying which lanes they're having issues on. Yeah. They can then go identify maybe little adjustments in their routing guide. Maybe they're over tendering to a high cost carrier. These are things that are not easy to identify when you look at data in the aggregate, but because Goodship is purpose built, you can quickly see, oh, okay, we're over tendering to a high cost carrier. Goodship's not advocating that you should not honor your commitments, but maybe if you have lower cost good service options in the routing guide, meet your commitment to the higher cost primary carrier, and then go to spot if it's more favorable, or go down the routing guide if the service is good and the price makes sense. And so that'd be an example. On the service front, when you have a lane that's having service issues, identifying which carriers are causing that, being able to show them a scorecard or give them an informal performance alert or even a formal performance improvement plan, holds the carriers accountable, shows them where they're falling short, and lets them get better. And so it's not only about running procurement events. I think there's a lot of tools in the toolkit to be agile and resilient, and sometimes it's tweak the routing guide, cap your volumes on certain lanes, use scorecarding and performance improvements as a lever. And of course, if those things don't work, then you have at your disposal the ability to pull lanes back from incumbents that aren't living up to your expectations, running an off-cycle mini bid in a matter of minutes to keep the network optimized in real time. So it's kind of multifaceted, and thanks for that question.
Yeah. So we both come from a brokerage background. I have done a lot of RFPs in my time. I've used a lot of the legacy tools and maybe even some of the newer tools that are out there. And honestly, I don't think any broker or carrier loves any of them. So I would be curious to know, you come from brokerage. When you designed this, did you also have the usability of the carrier or the broker participating in mind? Or is there also a way in which we're trying to enhance an experience so that it's not such a headache to participate in a shipper's RFP?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. One, I'm walking around the conference the last couple of days. I've had multiple brokers and carriers mention, oh yeah, we used your procurement tool for XYZ shipper, and it was the most seamless procurement experience we've had. We love it. We're now recommending you to our shippers. So that's, we haven't heard that much.
That's actually, I didn't even think about that. That's great. They can be like, hey, your RFPs are so painful. Have you looked at this solution yet?
Yes. I mean, this is again, we've only been around for a few years, and we're starting to hear this type of feedback, which of course gets us very excited. But to your question, I think building the pricing team at Convoy, some of the things that kept me up at night bidding in some of the biggest shippers networks, bidding hundreds of millions of dollars, all you find out, as you know, is the origin, the destination of the lane, the estimated annual volume, and the truck type. Of course, as everyone in the industry knows, there's so much more that goes into a price. Things like how much lead time are you getting from tender to pickup? What day of the week are loads picking and dropping? What's the seasonality of this lane?
So are you guys, this is fascinating to me, are you guys, through all this data aggregation you're doing, are you trying to pull really detailed information into these bids so carriers and brokers feel like they know exactly what they're getting?
Yes, exactly that.
That's amazing, because I spent years in my former sales life having to explain to shippers that anything I have to guess on becomes priced into the rates I give you.
Exactly right.
So I have to imagine there's direct ROI for the shippers as well.
100%. We talk about it all the time. Not only does it make the routing guide more durable, because they don't sign up for...
They're not surprised, I didn't know this is what I was getting into.
It's exactly what I've done in past roles in brokerage. You add a buffer to defend against the unknown. You know that most lanes are not going to be optimal, perfect, exactly the way you would draw it up. And so, here's what we think it's going to cost to run it. Let's add in our margin, and then let's put in a buffer to, make some assumptions that it's not going to be perfect, because it rarely is. And so by showing carriers and brokers exactly what they can expect from this lane in terms of trailing 12 months of seasonality, distribution of pickup and drop-off days of week, average lead time from tender to pickup, they don't need to guess. And in fact, they can stay away from lanes. We get anecdotes all the time. Hey, I was going to bid on this lane from A to B. I see the loads all pick up Saturdays and Sundays. We don't have trucks down there on the weekends. Let us know if it can be changed. We'd love to participate, but otherwise we'll stay away. If they didn't know that, they would be bidding on the lane. Sometimes they'd be winning that lane, and that's just going to lead to headaches for everyone downstream. So on one hand, they stay away from lanes they can't service, just from a pure service standpoint. but then they also know what to expect and what they're signing up for, and so they don't have to build in a buffer. They actually can price it more competitively because there's no surprises, and that leads to more durable routing guides, and I think more, to your point, more competitive prices for shippers. And I think both sides recognize that.
And it's just more efficient for the brokers and carriers, because brokers and carriers want contract free. They want to participate in a bid and win something and plan on it tangibly showing up in the tenders on the go live date.
Right.
And so often they think like, I mean, I've been in situations where I was like, cool, we won $1.2 million of freight, and then you're 3 months into it and you've gotten $50,000 worth of freight.
Loads?
And you're like, what is going on? They're like, that lane goes intermodal whenever, and it's like, okay, good to know.
Yes, absolutely.
So the more information, the better. So that's really awesome. And I also think that this is what happens when we get, people who really understand like the voice of the carrier and the broker when we're building this technology. Allows us to think about all the stakeholders that are involved, because procurement, it is about the shipper. They're the ones, like trying to procure and make these contracts. Yep. But it's so much too about the experience that they can give and the promises and commitments that they can uphold to their partners.
Absolutely. Great points. Completely agree. And I think not only do we make it more seamless in the workflow within procurement so that everyone can see, there's data symmetry, people know what they're signing up for, which, as we just talked about, leads to better outcomes. But then in the scorecarding component of Goodship, kind of on the orchestration side, not only can shippers hold their carriers accountable, but the two main themes of very positive feedback we get from carriers is, one, thank you for showing me what to expect in a procurement event so I can bid accurately and avoid the lanes we can't service. But on the other side, it's self-serve access to their scorecard, which, as we know, shippers measure things. Mostly they care about the same things, but they measure them all a little differently. So an example I always give is on-time service can be measured to the day, to the appointment, with a buffer. Are they only measuring on-time delivery? Are they measuring blended pick and delivery? And so because every shipper has their own nuances, showing configurable scorecards to the carriers that show the goalposts, how they're measuring up to that specific shipper, allows them to be better and collaborate to better outcomes. And part of that, going back to your question, is the shippers can hold the carriers accountable to honoring their primary tender acceptance, but the carriers can also see where the shipper isn't holding their end of the bargain, and it's a two-way conversation to make sure that both sides are holding up their side of it to, again, get to better service and spend outcomes.
Yeah. Well, today's the first day Q4, I think, right? It's October. So are we still seeing, is this still going to be a busy RFP season? I know a lot has changed. We do more mini bids, but I think we still have a pretty healthy amount of these end-of-year RFP cycles, right? I
think we do. We have several dozen major mid-market enterprise shippers on the platform today. We're seeing a lot of procurement activity, both mini bids and network bids. I think we're well represented across different verticals, so a lot of food, bev, CPG, as you would expect, but also a lot of industrial and a good amount of retail as well. And so I think the seasonality or the kind of bid season, if you will, is a little different by vertical and based on those shippers and industries, but we're seeing healthy activity. I know that several of our bigger shippers are gearing up for big bids as we speak, and we'll, in many cases, have a hand in helping them with that. And so, I think it's there's a lot of activity, and it's healthy.
I think it was I want to say it was in one of the sessions maybe that happened here, because I just had this conversation, and they were saying, how one of the Journal of Commerce editors was saying how someone was saying, oh, we're just not going to run a bid this year, so our rates don't change. And they were like, wrong approach. This is probably a time where we all need to be really talking to our partners in the bid cycle, preparing, because there's some optimism that we're going to see some moderate changes throughout 2026 and slow improvements throughout the year in the economy overall, but then hopefully even more so in the freight market. And so I feel like this is a really important kind of RFP season to get it right, to have those good conversations and to prepare yourself.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think, again, going back to something I talked about earlier with agility and resilience, no matter how good of a crystal ball we think we might have, some of it we're going to get it wrong. And so I think not only running a better procurement event with everyone understanding what they're signing up for and avoiding things that they can't support and pricing the things they can support the right way to, again, maximize durability of those routing guides is critical. But then it's also the evergreen approach to managing the network. It's not set it and forget it, do the annual bid or the semi-annual bid or whatever cadence. It's using technology, ideally Goodship, to get the recommendations, see where things are starting to deteriorate, nipping those in the bud, and correcting them, whether it's a little price adjustment, tweaking the routing guide, if it's a service issue, kind of having that conversation in a data-driven way. So things will go wrong, but having the tools to be agile and make the corrections on the fly, those shippers that are adopting are going to be in a much better position than ones that don't.
Awesome. Well, is this your first time attending this conference?
I was here 2 years ago.
Okay.
I was on a panel a couple years ago, and I'll be on one here shortly again today, so appreciate the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for making this part of your conference. If anyone's considering attending the conference next year, if they didn't come this year, what would you say?
It's a great conference, a great mix of shippers, brokers, asset-based carriers. It's a great group here.
Tech providers.
A lot of tech providers, certainly. Thank you. A lot of friendly faces, and it's a great conference, and JFC does a good job. You should come.
Well, I really appreciate you making time to be on the Meet Me for Coffee podcast, so thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you everyone for meeting us for coffee. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Meet Me for Coffee podcast. We're recording on-site at the Journal of Commerce Inland Distribution Conference this week. If you like this episode, be sure to check out our channels where we'll have multiple others published here this week with content from the show. And in just a couple of weeks, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming, discussing where freight markets and economics meet. I hope you guys can meet us for coffee.